Hello, in this video I'm going to be sharing a 6-point checklist that you can be sure that your logo adheres to make sure that you get the best results. I'm Lucy, I'm founder at Nurtur and branding consultant committed to helping companies like you to shine through branding. So what makes a good logo? Let's dive straight in. Number 1. Is it appropriate? This sounds a little bit vague because it does apply to a few areas. So firstly, is it appropriate to your brand personality and values? Does it match the style of your brand? So if you're a natural skincare company, perhaps you want to consider softer lines, rounded, nothing too sharp and edgy, nothing too contrasting. Think about the colours and the iconography and the shapes that you use and make sure they match the style and personality of your brand. Also, is it appropriate to your industry? Yes, you do want to be different to others in your industry, but be aware of what your customer expects to see and make sure you're not doing something so different that they perhaps just don't gel with it. It doesn't make sense to them within that industry. You also want to make sure it's appropriate in the fact that you're not offending anybody in the icons that you use. So consider different cultures and be aware that different iconography can have different meanings in different cultures. Number 2, create the logo with your customer in mind. So don't design or choose a logo based on your own personal tastes. Try to consider how your customer will feel about it rather than you. Also, be aware that when you first look at different logos, they're all going to be new to you. You're maybe not going to gel with any of them straight away because it is new and it's just a first impression. So see if you can firstly see images of them in situ so you can imagine how they will look when they're supporting your brand. Also, sleep on it, give it some time. You might feel different the next day. Just remember that when you have a loyal customer who perhaps wants to wear a logo on their t-shirt or even get a tattoo, remember that they're not doing that just because they love the look of the logo and the artistry. They're doing it because they believe in your brand and they love what you do. So don't sweat the small stuff when it comes to the design of the logo by itself. Number 3, is it simple yet memorable and distinctive? This is a very difficult balance to find and why logo design is a huge challenge, especially today when there are so many logos out there that have already been designed. If you go too simple, you might find that you're too similar to what somebody else has done. However, on the other hand, if you're trying so hard to be different, you may end up adding in too much detail and it just becomes too complicated. If you can find that balance between simple yet distinctive, you're onto a winner. Number 4, is it adaptable? So when we talk about adaptable, we're considering that the logo will not always be seen in the same way. So sometimes it'll be printed, other times you'll see it on a digital screen, sometimes it could be tiny, really small, other times it's blown up on a billboard. You may even have it textiled onto something. So think about all these different ways that it could be produced and make sure that the design is simple enough to work in all of these ways. I would advise having a basic black and white block colour logo. There may be times when you have to present it in this way, perhaps when it comes to print and you can only do black and white. You want to be sure that your logo still works. Number 5, is it timeless? Now, nothing is completely timeless, and I'm sure you're aware that many companies that you like and follow that have been around a long time, you'll have seen that they will have adapted and changed their logo over time. But this is over a long period of time. You don't want to be changing your logo 5 or 10 years into the future because it's cost to you, and also you ideally want it to be around as long as possible for your customers to really get to know and recognize your logo. Some tips on keeping your logo timeless involve not following trends. So don't choose something just because it's fashionable in that time. For example, you might be seeing a lot of gradients in logos or a drop shadow in a logo. These things can go in and out of fashion, so I suggest you try to keep it simple. The same goes for fonts. You could pick a really exciting, elaborate font that's perhaps new, and yes, you might love it, but in 10 years, it might not look so good. So try to choose classic fonts that have been around for a long time already and you know that they work into the future and don't look dated. And lastly, number 6 is checking for copyright. So before you decide on a final design, what you could do first is do a Google image search on your logo. So drag it into Google image and search and check that there's nothing that looks too similar. You can also check for trademarks. So look up your company name and see if there have been any image logo trademarks to that name and check that you're not even a little bit like them. If you're not sure in this area, in fact, I would advise doing this anyway, is to get a lawyer. You can get specific creative lawyers to do this, to do these checks for you, just so that you can be completely sure that you're not going to come to any issues further down the road and have to change your logo. Hope you found this helpful. Please leave any comments if you've got any questions, like, subscribe, and I will see you soon.